Most anything, so just do what you love. Live it, share it, you know it's what you're dreaming of. What we love, what we do makes a difference in me.
Hi everyone, it's Pauline from Stamp with Pauline, Stampin' Stampede, and today is Why Wednesday. And Why Wednesday is something I decided to have a go at doing of why did you buy a stamp set? What did you like about it? Why haven't you used it? What's something that drew you to that set? And why not grab it out and have a go at it today? So you'll see a couple of cards I've already made in the past using this stamp set. Even on my YouTube channel is a hinge technique using this particular stamp. So I'm going to actually show you some other ways of getting the most out of this set, and because it's Christmas we might as well make some Christmas cards. So with my sets, if they have specific dies that coordinate with a stamp set, I actually put the dies in here using a piece of magnetic self-adhesive sheet on the back there, so that way then I can stamp and cut at the same time. So we're going to have a go at this. So what you will need is a piece of Whisper White base card. So this is my A4 sheet of cardstock cut at 10.5. So you're going to start off with this, and I've got the big Christmas tree, and we're going to use shaded spruce for this card. So open that up and just stamp into here. And what you want to do is just stamp it straight down. Okay, now what you want to do is go to the side, and what I have done is just slightly raised it up to this side. And then what I'm also going to do is, I don't want another darker tree here, so I'm just going to stamp off on my drop sheet and then stamp again on this side, and then ink off and stamp off, and I just wanted another tree just out to the side there like that. Okay, so we'll give that a quick clean so that we don't have our ink everywhere. So I'm just going to close that and clean that quickly and dry that off. Alrighty, then what I'm going to do is take the sentiments that are in the set, which is Thinking of You This Season, and I'm using the Versamark ink pad. The Versamark ink pad, just remember to store it upside down because it's made differently, so you want to keep that ink to the top. So I'm going to stamp that up the top here. I think I'll just onto there, and then using some gold, let's pop all that out of the way, some gold embossing powder I have in a container. Going to just sprinkle that onto there, give it a flick and a bit of a wipe and a bit of a blow. I just want to get off any little dags that are hanging around. I would also recommend using the embossing buddy, but Stampin' Up have actually deleted that now. But it's actually a good thing to actually use. Gets rid of all of those little extra daggy bits. Let's just save it hanging on. So I'll just brush that off. All right, so make sure you put your embossing powder away, because you don't want to heat up your embossing powder in your tray, because it'll obviously melt and stick. All right, so it might get a little bit noisy, but I'm just going to turn the heat tool on, heat this up, and you'll actually see that it will go from this dull shade of gold to a brighter gold, shiny gold. So it doesn't take very long for it to turn to a shine. All right, and then to finish the card off, what I'm going to do is add some of these metallic pearls. You get the 2-pack, and that's in the gold and the silver. So just going to take a couple of those and stick that down onto there. Just really random, no particular reason. And they do tend to stick to your finger a bit as well. Probably should use the tool, but we're okay. All right, so pop that onto there. Okay, so that's our card, and I think I might even add some ribbon, but I've actually just done a couple here for you so that you can actually see what it finished looking like. So this is the version with it embossed up the top, and I've added some ribbon. I do recommend just putting some of the Stampin' Seal Plus underneath here so that your ribbon actually doesn't move, because it is at the end of the card, so you might want to think about that. And that's a variation of it. This time I've stamped down here and I've just added the ribbon there. So that is the first card I have made using this stamp today, and I'm going to show you another way of doing this as well. So what you're going to do is start off with a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and this is cut at 10.5 centimeters by 14.25 centimeters. And what I'm going to do, I'll just make sure my stamp is clean. So I'll just add a little bit more of the conditioning mist to the scrub, give it a clean. Sorry, it's going to shake the camera a bit there, and dry that off. And I'll do the same with the Versamark that I've used on the other ink pad, on the other stamp as well. All right, so for this card, what I'm going to do, so I've got a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I'm going to start with, I'm going to use Mossy Meadow for this card. So ink up, and I'm just going to pop down 3 of these trees. All right, and I'm just going to pat it off on my drop sheet, and then I'm going to give it a clean because I want to use a different colour. So I'll just clean that off. Okay, then what I'm going to do, just put that away. I'm going to use Pear Pizzazz. And now going to ink my Pear Pizzazz. And I'm going to stamp one up there. And I'm going to stamp another one down. And then stamp a third over there. Okay. And then just give that a quick clean and a dry. Oh, Corey. So now what I've done is I've actually just used the die to cut out. I had just some scrap Whisper White cardstock here. So what I'm going to do is, so when you look at the die, it's actually got this little runner here, and so it just cuts on one side. So that's how you end up with just this piece just dangling like that. And I haven't cut it right to the edge. So I'm just going to grab my scissors and just following on with that line, cut that off. And then, because it was just a scrap piece, so I didn't even measure it, so I have no idea if it's even cut to size to fit my card. So, yep, it'll need trimming. All right, so what I'm going to do is just straighten off one of the edges. So I will just grab my trimmer and just trim just one edge away to make it straight, because I'd like it to go onto here like that. And I might even narrow it down a little bit more in a minute too. I just want a bit more of those trees, but I'm going to just hold on for a sec because I do want to actually see whether my words will fit there first. So using the same words again and my Versamark stamp, and I'm just going to go close to the top part so I can trim a little bit of that white off, and then grab hold of the embossing powder. Just wipe off any of those little bits of gold embossing powder you can sort of see. Just give it a flick. All right. Pop that out of the way. All right, so I'm going to heat emboss this part. And I've just sort of turned it over just so it doesn't twist as much just on that other side. All right, so what I'm going to do is grab hold of my multi-purpose glue, and I think I'm happy with it. It will need trimming, so I'm going to actually just drop that down. So I'm going to not glue right to the edge so that I can chop a bit off, but also too it saves the glue oozing out as well. So I'm going to bring that right over to here and drop it down. All right, so happy with that. All right, might just use the scissors, and I'm going to just cut away the side and that side. And I'll grab the trimmer and just cut off that little bit of excess. Just hasn't quite cut off that bit, so I'm just going to use the scissors just to finish that. Okay, so now I have my card done onto there, and then I'm going to take a piece of the Mossy Meadow base cardstock, and I'm going to glue it on. And of course then you can do a variation and make it slightly smaller again and add another layer into that. So they are my two cards, done them in opposite directions, so you can see how that works. All right, and my third card for this stamp set today, I'm going to grab a piece of Whisper White cardstock. I've got a piece of Mossy Meadow cardstock, and my base card this time will be Pear Pizzazz. So Pear Pizzazz is the normal base side card, and then for this size measurement, I have done this. Just knocked the camera. So for this size here, I have done that at 9.5 centimeters by 13.5 centimeters. So this should be 10 centimeters by 14 centimeters. So you'll just see there's a slight little difference in that. So that layer will actually fit onto here. So for this card, what I'm going to start off with is using Mossy Meadow again. All right, ink up that, and I'm going to stamp it. Now I want to actually have this one going up on an angle. I want to actually have my words in this corner here. So I'm going to start down fairly low on the corner here. And then what I'm going to do is stamp my next tree slightly up. And then I'm going to stamp the next tree again further up like that. And I'll just clean this. I'll just drop off a little bit of excess ink. This Mossy Meadow is actually quite juicy, and so give that a little pat off on the drop sheet before I clean it with the Stampin' Scrub. So now I've got that. What I'm now going to do is add Pear Pizzazz, and I'm going to ink it up. And what I'm going to do is stamp. I want it still to have that fall, so I'm going to stamp my tree here, and then my second tree slightly down, and I still want it to look like a forest. So what I'm going to do is actually just lift up my drop sheet to act like a mask, and to give that illusion that there's a few more trees in the background, I'm actually just going to stamp and stamp off and stamp again. And I'll do another one. So stamp off and do one over here. So now I actually have a foresty sort of look of trees. Okay, just turn that around so I'm not with that fold now. But you could just use a piece of scrap paper if you didn't want to fold your drop sheet, but I couldn't be bothered, so that's what I did. So what you then do, just give that a clean and a dry, and then bringing back in our words and our Versamark again, ink up, and then pop those words as far down as you can onto there. And it won't really matter if the trees cover a little bit of it, because they're still going to actually see it. So then what I'm going to do is grab the embossing powder again, tap off that excess. There's just a little bit that's actually just stuck there. And I don't have my paintbrush out, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of a flick and a blow. Alrighty, so that's that. And then we'll just heat that up. Now I'm going to add this to my piece of Mossy Meadow cardstock. And now I'm going to glue that, all of that down now to my base card of Pear Pizzazz. So there we have that. So I'll just move my drop sheet out of the way and get rid of any extra bits of embossing powder. And then what we've got here is the cards that I've made. So there's the two of those cards like that. And then we have the two cards like that as well. And then we also have the cards with, I'll show you the ones with the ribbon on it, not the one without the ribbon, because I've still got to add ribbon to that. And then that's our third card. So there's three different ways to use Winter Woods stamp set. So great ideas, loads on Pinterest as well for you to have a look at and see which way you would actually like it to go. But yeah, that's our Why Wednesday for today. So hope you like that, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
So just do what you love. Live it, share it, you know it's what you're dreaming of.